18. Dear Mr. Kane, I am a resident of Kansingil Apartments, located right next to the newly opened Vienna Dog Park. Since you are the manager of Vienna Dog Park, I ask you to take measures to prevent the noise at night. I hope to hear from you soon. 19. Jonas He had expected to see some old castles and historical monuments, but now he saw nothing like that awaiting him. What can I learn from these boring fields? Jonas said to himself with a sigh. Excited, disappointed, indifferent, thrilled, amazed, horrified, surprised, relieved, worried, confident. 20. Probably the biggest roadblock to play for adults is the worry that they will look silly, improper, or dumb if they allow themselves to truly play. The thing is this: you have to give yourself permission to improvise, to mimic, to take on a long hidden identity. 21. Playing intellectual air guitar. They may look like jazz musicians and have the appearance of jamming, but in the end they know nothing. They're playing intellectual air guitar, acquiring necessary experience to enhance their creativity, exhibiting artistic talent coupled with solid knowledge of music, posing as experts by demonstrating their in-depth knowledge, performing musical pieces to attract a highly educated audience, displaying seemingly creative ability not rooted in firm knowledge. 22. In retrospect, it might seem surprising that something as mundane as the desire to count sheep was the driving force for an advance as fundamental as written language. If it weren't for the commercial enterprises that produced those records, we would know far, far less about the cultures that they came from. 23. Human beings do not enter the world as competent moral agents. Nor does everyone leave the world in that state. But somewhere in between, most people acquire a bit of decency that qualifies them for membership in the community of moral agents. The interaction between nature and nurture is, however, highly complex. A complete scientific explanation of moral evolution and development in the human species is a very long way off. Evolution of human morality from a cultural perspective. Difficulties in studying the evolutionary process of genes. Increasing necessity of educating children as moral agents. Nature versus nurture controversies in developmental biology. Complicated gene-environment interplay in moral development. 24. Invasions of natural communities by non-indigenous species are currently rated as one of the most important global-scale environmental problems. The loss of biodiversity has generated concern over the consequences for ecosystem functioning, and thus understanding the relationship between both has become a major focus in ecological research during the last 2 decades. The biodiversity inviability hypothesis by Elton suggests that high diversity increases the competitive environment of communities and makes them more difficult to invade. Further, more diverse communities are believed to be more stable because they use a broader range of niches than species-poor communities. Carve out more empty ecological spaces. Guardian of ecology, diversity resists invasion. Grasp all, lose all, necessity of species-poor ecology. Challenges in testing biodiversity inviability hypothesis. Diversity dilemma: the more competitive, the less secure. 26. The NUER. They believe that counting the number of children one has could result in misfortune, and prefer to report fewer children than they have. Nile River Valley. 27. Green tea packaging design competition. Entries JPG format only, should be submitted by email to designmanager@tiistea.com. Lakota County 1. 28. 2019 Badminton Challenge for charity. With an additional $20 donation, you can learn badminton skills from professional players. Sauk Children's Hospital 3120. 29. When considered in this light, the visual preoccupation of early humans with the non-human creatures inhabited their world becomes profoundly meaningful. Inhabiting. 30. Before denying that the remaining explanation is the correct one, consider whether other plausible options are being ignored or overlooked. Denying, conceding, or accepting. 31-34. 31. The role of science can sometimes be overstated, with its advocates slipping into scientism. Scientism is the view that the scientific description of reality is the only truth there is. The consequence is that non-scientific approaches to reality may become labeled as merely subjective, and therefore of little in terms of describing the way the world is of account equal of importance equal important of little account question account controversy variation bias. 32 In a typical experiment, two toy cars were shown running synchronously on parallel tracks. The children were then asked to judge whether the cars had run for the same time, and to justify their judgment. Preschoolers and young school-age children confuse temporal and spatial dimensions, hence, a child may claim that the cars started and stopped running together correct and that the car which stopped further ahead ran for more time incorrect. One running faster and stopping further down the track, both stopping at the same point further than expected, one keeping the same speed as the other to the end, both alternating their speed, but arriving at the same end, both slowing their speed and reaching the identical spot. 33. The future of our high-tech goods may lie not in the limitations of our minds, but in previous eras, such as the Iron Age and the Bronze Age, the discovery of new elements brought forth seemingly unending numbers of new inventions, but without increasing today's limited supplies, we have no chance of developing the alternative green technologies we need to slow climate change. Our ability to secure the ingredients, to produce them, our effort to make them as eco-friendly as possible, the wider distribution of innovative technologies, governmental policies not to limit resource supplies, the constant update and improvement of their functions. 34 The famous 19th century critic Edward Hanslick regarded the measurable tone as the primary and essential condition of all music. Musical sounds, he was saying, can be distinguished from those of nature by the fact that they involve the use of fixed pitches, whereas virtually all natural sounds consist of constantly fluctuating frequencies. Now it is true that in most of the world's musical cultures, pitches are, however, not so much artificially fixed as naturally fluctuating, not only fixed, but organized into a series of discrete steps, hardly considered a primary compositional element of music, highly diverse and complicated, and thus are immeasurable, a vehicle for carrying unique and various cultural features. 35. Although common sense knowledge may have merit, it also has weaknesses, not the least of which is that it often contradicts itself. For example, we hear that people who are similar will like one another, birds of a feather flock together, but also that persons who are dissimilar will like each other, opposites attract. We are told that groups are wiser and smarter than individuals, two heads are better than one, but also that group work inevitably produces poor results, too many cooks spoil the broth. Each of these contradictory statements may hold true under particular conditions, but without a clearer statement of when they apply and when they do not. Aphorisms provide little insight into relations among people. That is why we heavily depend on aphorisms whenever we face difficulties and challenges in the long journey of our lives. 36-37. 36 Movies may be said to support the dominant culture, and to serve as a means for its reproduction over time. The bad guys are usually punished, the romantic couple almost always find each other despite the obstacles and difficulties they encounter on the path to true love. The simple answer to this question is that movies do more than present 2-hour civics lessons or editorials on responsible behavior. They also tell stories that, in the end, we find satisfying. But one may ask why audiences would find such movies enjoyable, if all they do is give cultural directives and prescriptions for proper living. A-C-B-C-A-C-A-C-A-C-B-C-B-A. 37 Traditionally, Kuhn claims, the primary goal of historians of science was to clarify and deepen an understanding of contemporary scientific methods or concepts by displaying their evolution. Some discoveries seem to entail numerous phases and discoverers, none of which can be identified as definitive. This entailed relating the progressive accumulation of breakthroughs and discoveries. Closer analysis of scientific discoveries, for instance, led historians to ask whether the dates of discoveries and their discoverers can be identified precisely. Nor does the traditional view recognize the role that non-intellectual factors, especially institutional and socio-economic ones, play in scientific developments. A-C-B-A-C-A-C-A-C-A-C-B-C-B-A. 38-39. 38 Thus, individuals of many resident species, confronted with the fitness benefits of control over a productive breeding site, may be forced to balance costs in the form of lower non-breeding survivorship, by remaining in the specific habitat, where highest breeding success occurs. In some cases, the habitat that provides the best opportunity for survival may not be the same habitat as the one that provides for highest reproductive capacity, because of requirements specific to the reproductive period. Migrants, however, are free to choose the optimal habitat for survival during the non-breeding season and for reproduction during the breeding season. 39. Still, it is arguable that advertisers worry rather too much about this problem, as advertising in other media has always been fragmented. This made the television advertising of mass consumer products relatively straightforward, not to say easy, whereas today it is necessary for advertisers to build up coverage of their target markets over time, by advertising on a host of channels with separate audiences. Moreover, advertisers gain considerable benefits from the price competition between the numerous broadcasting stations. 40a, b. However, after long absences, members of family and bond groups greet one another with incredibly theatrical displays. The fact that the intensity reflects the duration of the separation, as well as the level of intimacy, suggests that elephants have a sense of time as well. The evolved greeting behaviors of elephants can serve as an indicator of how much they are socially A, and how long they have been B. A. B. Competitive disconnected tied endangered responsible isolated competitive united tied parted. 41-42. Many teachers believe that students merely engaging in activities and manipulating objects would organize the information to be gained and the knowledge to be understood into concept comprehension. Educators began to notice that the pendulum had swung too far to the hands-on component of inquiry, as they realized that the knowledge was not be inherent in the materials themselves, but in the thought and metacognition about what students had done in the activity. We now know that hands-on is a dangerous phrase when speaking about learning science. The C missing ingredient is the minds-on part of the instructional experience. The uncertainty about the knowledge intended in any activity comes from each student's recreation of concepts and discussing, thinking, arguing, listening, and evaluating one's own preconceptions after the activities, under the leadership of a thoughtful teacher, can bring this about. Our view of what students need to build their knowledge and theories about the natural world extends far beyond a hands-on activity. 41. Hands-on activities, as a source of creativity. Activity-oriented learning enters science education. Figure out what students like most in science class. Joy in learning, more effective when separated. Turn minds on learning on in science class. 42. ABCDE uncertainty. Certainty. 43-45. A. The colors of the trees looked like they were on fire, the reds and oranges competing with the yellows and golds. Nina had been heartbroken after losing her championship belt. Marie, her longtime friend and trainer, shared her pain. After another silent hour, Marie and Nina saw a sign, Seoul Falls. Marie thought this would be a good place for them to stop. Then, with a great push, a small one turned a complete circle, and made it over the falls. He made it. Nina shouted at the success with admiration. More salmon then followed and succeeded. She felt ashamed to be looking at them. After a moment, she turned to Marie and said, "Giving up is not in my vocabulary. Marie, I'll get my championship belt back." Walking up the path and back to the car, they could still hear the fish splashing in the water. Marie pulled over into the parking lot. They found the falls spilling out in various layers of rock beneath them. In the water, they saw salmon slowly moving their bodies. While Marie and Nina kept watching the salmon, a big one suddenly leapt. It threw itself up and over the rushing water above, but in vain. They were standing without a word and watching the fish struggling. Watching the salmon, Marie noticed Nina fixing her eyes on their continuing challenge. Nina's heart was beating fast at each leap and twist. 43. AB-D-C-B-D-B-D-B-C-B-D-C-B. 44. ABCDE. 45. Marie Nina Marie Nina Nina Marie Marie Nina Nina.